COVID really being the least of them for us, though that presented a lot of obstacles indeed. But in 2020, my father passed away in May, my mother passed away in October, and then also one of my dear friends, and many of you know, Brother Norman Starling, who was a mentor to me over the years, he passed away. And then in November, I had a cardiac event, sitting in a Bible class just much like this one. And as I was sitting in the class, I don't remember anything about that day, but apparently my heart stopped. Apparently it did stop. And so they performed CPR on me. Finally, when the EMS got there, they got a small heartbeat of some sort. I crashed again on the way to the hospital, and then again in the emergency room. And so for about an hour, they had performed CPR on me, broke my sternum and ribs, and that was probably the hardest thing to get over. But I know that a lot of you were aware of our situation and what was going on, and we really appreciate your prayers and your love and encouragement during that difficult time. Rather strange. My arteries are fine. Doesn't seem to be any blockages or anything. But just like the soccer athletes, some of you may be aware of what happened just about a week or so ago. A soccer athlete just collapsed on the field, and they administered CPR, and he's now sporting the same piece of hardware that I am with a defibrillator and pacemaker. I got the 2-in-1 special that they put inside me, but so it's constantly monitoring my heart. And so far, we're doing well. It's taken me a while to recuperate and get back to 100%, but not quite there yet on 100%. But I did get out with a chainsaw yesterday and cut some cedar trees down, and so I'm feeling pretty good. And but we've been really back to work since January, February, and it's been an exciting year. We're just looking forward to completely getting COVID behind us, that's for sure, and all of the fallout from that. But thank you during that difficult time, and above all, we praise God for that. We're here today to talk to you about the 7 billion souls, over 7 billion souls that are alive on planet Earth. And yet, as we think about that number, what we need to remember is that that is simply a number. Let's see if that's going to advance. Okay. Getting a signal there. As we think about that number, 7 billion souls, we need to recall and remember that we're talking about people. They're our neighbors, they're our family members, our relatives and friends. And yet Jesus said, go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. And so what an obligation, what a responsibility that is. Part of what we're trying to do in our work called Bible Passages is, go ahead, yeah. Part of our work in what we call Bible Passages really involves a number of things. And so, Ron, if you'll take a look at the next one, I'll be able to. Part of what our work called Bible Passages involves, as you can see, really 4 areas of training preachers, equipping the saints, defending the faith, and then also in guiding souls to Jesus. Now, the last one I'm not going to talk as much about today because of last year's COVID restrictions. We weren't able to go to Southeast Asia or particularly to England like we had planned. There's a congregation in England that does not have a preacher, and so they rotate preachers in and out of there. And so we had planned to stay there a month helping the congregation in Brandon, England. But again, that was canceled. But in the years ahead, again, we'll be rotating in and out in various works, like at Singapore, Malaysia, and in England, and perhaps other places. So our primary focus this year then, let's go the wrong way there. Our primary focus this year then has been on our work with Bear Valley Bible Institute and World Video Bible School, and our work with Bible Land Passages. And it's important to remember that Bible Land Passages is just a subset of our overall work and the things that we're involved in, the things that you're helping to support. It's going to include, and does include, as I mentioned, Southeast Asia, our work in marriage seminars and gospel meetings, and in the DVDs that we produce through World Video Bible School. Let me give you sort of an update. I know some of you are familiar with those things because we send out a monthly report, and some of you know a little bit about what's going on in those areas. But let me update you with some of the most latest information. First of all, in regard to Bible Land Passages, we want to stress to the world, and especially be a resource to the church, helping old and young alike to see that the Bible story takes place in a real historical, geographical location. We want people to understand and to know that there are evidences that are the foundation to our faith, that we don't have a faith that's just a blind leap into the dark, but rather it's rooted in the historical reality of Jesus. It's rooted in a geographical setting, in a real place, and in a real time. So we are trying to preserve the evidences associated with that, to document that, and make it available to the church through World Video Bible School and other resources so that the church can use it in further defending the faith. And so Bible Land Passages has as its objective to, as you can see, to edify, to aid the believer, and to defend the faith. And a part of aiding the believer is also creating opportunities for brethren to go and to study in the Bible lands. As a part of the Bear Valley Bible Institute, we have a part of our curriculum. Students can go every 2 years and study in the Bible lands for about 2 weeks. And then we also guide other tours and groups and taking them to do the same. So that's an important part of our work. But let me tell you where we are right now on that part of our work. We have actually just completed Volume 3 of the documentary series called Bible Land Passages. And it's available now, just now. It's come out on a DVD. But not only can you watch it on a DVD, but you can also see it on Amazon Prime. If you have an account with Amazon Prime, you can pull it up there and watch any of those 3 volumes. It can also be viewed on VidAngel and on Faith Life TV, which is a part of the Logos program. And those are good platforms for also viewing some good, wholesome movies, or at least VidAngel. They extract a lot of the bad information and curse words and so forth out of there. But there are also some faith-based movies and programs that are available for people to watch. But we're right in there with them as well. So be sure and tell your friends and neighbors about these documentaries. We want them to know and to understand that these documentaries also teach elements with regard to the gospel plan of salvation, about the church, how to become a Christian, about living for the Lord, and just encouraging words. So there are faith lessons associated with each documentary that we can use for evangelistic and edification purposes. So those are available. Also, you can go to our website. I know that a lot of you know about this already, but I want to bring you up to date with some things that are on the horizon, that are already in the process and the works for adding to our website here at Bible Land Passages. And at Bible Land Passages, there are some great resources for you. There are the documentaries themselves, and then short, what we call reflections, which are sort of a synopsis of our talking about some of these places that we visited. And so they're, in addition to the sites that are discussed on the documentaries, places like Jerusalem, or the Sea of Galilee, or Caesarea Maritima, or Qumran, where the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered, or Caiaphas, which is the biblical town of Sha'araim, which is overlooks the Elah Valley, where David killed Goliath, and a lot of things associated with the kingdom of David that have been quite fascinating in recent years, that prove and demonstrate that David was not just some sort of chieftain over some small nomadic tribes, but rather David was indeed a king over a substantial and large kingdom, not an empire, we know that, but over a kingdom in Israel. So those passages discuss things like that, as well as the reflections. And then there are over 1,000 photos that you can take a look at, and those are available to purchase individually through World Video Bible School, or you can go and buy the entire 1,000 stockpile of photos from World Video Bible School, I think for roughly $35, $40 or so. They sell those and receive the proceeds for that to go back into their work at World Video Bible School. And we're now in the process of working on the next 1,000 and labeling all of those photos of different sites, and some of them will also add to the sites that we have. So great materials for your Bible school programs, for preachers who may use PowerPoint, or maybe they're putting photographs in their articles, and they want to, put an article, put a photograph that has something to do with what they're talking about, and those are available for use in that particular method. Also, let's say you're doing some advertising for a gospel meeting, and you're looking for some stock photos, and it may not be about the Bible Lands or gospel meeting. It may be just about the sunset of our life or something like that. Well, we have sunset pictures of the Bible Lands in there. So all kinds of things that you can use those photos for, but especially for helping to bring the Bible to life. I think they're particularly helpful with our young people, but of all ages, who like to see and know what these places look like and where Jesus walked and the early patriarchs and so forth. Something else that we're adding to this now that we are now in the process of working on, I just recorded a few at World Video Bible School a few weeks ago, is a new set of programs called Connections. And we're very excited about this because they're shorter versions of kind of the documentary style. But we found that, people like shorter versions. Unfortunately, that's kind of where we are in the world right now. People like short videos, and we get a lot of information out that way. But we're also incorporating into this new program called Connections, a connection between faith and fact in the land of the Bible. But as a part of that, we've also included some of these new illustrations, 3D models that Patrick Hammock is creating and working with us on these. And we're going back and putting them in some of the older documentaries, but we're also putting them into the new shorter ones called Connections. But we're also going to be making them available online. So let's say that you're teaching a Bible class and you've got a lesson about the tabernacle. And you'd like to not just see a photograph of the tabernacle, but maybe you'd like to do a little virtual tour through the tabernacle with your students. Well, you'll be able to do that on this site, or tour Caesarea Maritima, or tour Shiloh. The upper left-hand corner there is a model of Shiloh and where the tabernacle may have been located in various sites. Also, we're working on now on one called Armageddon, or Megiddo, the Battle of Armageddon. And is that a real place? Of course, it is a real place. That is, Megiddo is. But the Battle of Armageddon, symbolic, and yet the Bible uses a real place to help us better understand a number of things in regard to the faith that we have and the victory that's to be found in Jesus over persecution. So you'll be able to tour Megiddo, and then you can see there the city of David. Right now we're working also on one called Hezekiah's Tunnel, an exploration of the tunnel and about the city of David and where that's located. So more and more is being developed as we go along in this new series. And then also, as I mentioned, our photos library. Another thing that has been nice about this Bible Lands project that we've been involved in is that other groups have been able to use the material, so that we have all of this at World Video Bible School, and again, available to churches. But Apologetics Press, I know a lot of you are familiar with Apologetics Press, and where Brother Dave Miller and Jeff Miller are working, and Eric Lyons and Kyle Butt. But Kyle Butt recently put together a video series, or a video short called 9 Discoveries That Confirm the Bible. And 7 of those discoveries that are mentioned in there, he used photographs and video footage that we had collected when we were in the Bible Lands. So this particular one, I mentioned it because there's well over 1 million views just on that little short video alone. So we're thankful that others have been able to use our materials as well. So that's the Bible Lands Passages project as a part of our work of Bible passages. But secondly, our work of guiding souls to Jesus continues, especially through World Video Bible School and the website that's available and the cards now, as well as the DVDs. They still make those, but now they have little cards with a QR code on them that you can pass out, and people then can just put their little camera on their phone over the QR code, and it'll take them right to the video about how to become a Christian, what's the church look like, and the characteristics of the church, and so forth. So an excellent evangelistic tool. And then also I brought some copies. They're back in my backpack back there. But Searching for Truth has just been recently translated into Chinese. I had nothing to do with that work, but I wanted you to know about it. So if you have some friends somewhere that speak Mandarin Chinese, it's now available. It's also available in Korean and in Spanish and in Russian and also Swahili. So appreciate World Video Bible School and the excellent work that they're doing in translating those. Another part of our work includes edifying the church. And over 2020, as well as this past several months, we've been able to do some things like gospel meetings. Some of these are a little bit older pictures, but gospel meetings and lectureships. Just spoke recently at Focal Point, and but also the marriage seminars that Carl and I have been able to conduct. We're still conducting those. We've got one this summer in Georgetown at the San Gabriel Oaks, or the Gabriel Oaks congregation. We also did one for the students. Well, mention this. This is our marriage book. This is not the cover. I tried so hard to make a copy of the cover and put it in here, the newest one. But if you'll go to BiblePassages.net, you can download that book for free. And it is a marriage book that we use in the seminars, but also in some of our premarital counseling and postmarital counseling. But again, another resource available to you for free that you might find helpful in just enriching your own marriage. So you might avail yourself of that. We were blessed during COVID to go out into the park and do a little marriage seminar for some of the couples. Not all of them were able to attend, but here are a few of the couples that attended Bear Valley this past spring. And so we just spent a day out in the park. It was one of the funnest marriage seminars that we've done because in between each session, we had a little break, and we got to actually throw the football around and sit out on the chairs and watch look at the big, beautiful mountains of Colorado in the background, and just a beautiful day. And then they separated and went out and sat under a tree, and we gave them assignments and things to do to further talk through some things related to marriage. So a wonderful day, and we really enjoyed that time. And then we just returned from Alaska, where we conducted a marriage seminar, and then I conducted a gospel meeting following the marriage seminar in Wasilla, Alaska. So small congregation there, but they had a good turnout for that Saturday program, and we were so blessed to meet so many good couples that were desirous to enrich their marriages. Then let me mention this, and I know our time is quickly getting away from us, but our final bit of work that we want to mention to you involves training preachers. And so we really are so blessed to be a part of a program that, like we were at Southwest School of Bible Study, and I know that Ronnie is doing a great job there as well. And so important that we think about and understand what Paul said about training others who will be able, find faithful men, as Paul told Timothy, that they will be able to teach others also, to pass on the faith, to contend for the faith, and to teach young men and women how to study the Bible and how to be teachers, effective teachers, and evangelists in spreading the good news of Jesus Christ. So we are blessed to be able to be a part of that work, not only in Denver, but in the past at in Singapore at the Four Seas Bible College, where we were able to spend a little bit of time there and teaching some classes just for a couple of weeks there, but really enjoyed that time. But I don't know how familiar you are with Bear Valley Bible Institute, but Bear Valley is involved more than just locally. We have 25 schools in 19 countries and over 400 preacher students in those schools. And their model is this, basically: let's don't bring preachers from all over the world to the United States. Let's try to train them in their home country. Now, there are some exceptions to that, and I'll share those with you here in just a moment, where students don't have a preacher training school accessible to them in their own country or even maybe nearby. And so on those rare occasions, we do allow them to come to the States. But the program essentially is this: let's go to a congregation somewhere, let's say Africa, and let's find a country in Africa, go to that city. Is there a congregation who wants to establish a school? Then we'll help them with regard to their curriculum and also send instructors occasionally over there. But the idea is to have trained instructors there and just support them and encourage them. But the local body is in charge of that school. And we have a very close working relationship with them quite naturally in that area. But it's been exciting to see the development of that over the years, especially with the director, Keith Kasarjan, who is the extension director, who spends a lot of time traveling and visiting these schools regularly. So it's not as though there's no contact with them. Keith is constantly, regularly visiting them. And then also some of you might know Brother Mark Reynolds. Thank you. All of a sudden I lost his name. Brother Mark and Mindy worked for a few years with the Forest Hill congregation, and he's now going to become the assistant director of that program. And then there are others that are involved in that program. But locally is where we spend most of our time, about 6 months out of the year. We go there the first and the third quarters. We're spending a little more time there now because Carla has been appointed as the Dean of Women and doing a great work in that area. But this is a picture taken, by the way, just weeks before COVID, hit the United States. And sad to say that class, or at least the class that you see there that graduated this past May, or at least a portion of them were a part of that class. Sadly, they only received about 2.5 quarters in personal in-class instruction. Colorado has been much more rigorous in their guidelines and restrictions about public education or private education as well. And so a lot of their learning was done online. It was a real challenge and difficulty for those students as well as the faculty members, but being in class, watching a screen 7 hours a day, and then after that having to get back on their computers and do their homework assignments and so forth, just really took a toll on those students. So we are glad that Colorado has finally opened back up. But we spend the first and the third quarters there, and then the second and the fourth quarters, we're kind of in and out of the Dripping Springs area. In our home, we have a house still there. And while we're in Colorado, you see the little house there next to the building? That's where Carla and I stay. And Brother Roy Lanier actually lived in that house. And many years ago, he was one of the first directors of the school. And there was a time in which students took classes in the basement down below. And then it became offices. Then right before we got there, it was a huge storage facility. And but they cleaned it up, remodeled it in many ways. And so that's where we stay, right there next to the building. So don't have much of a commute at all. It was rather strange the first month that we were there. I think we went almost an entire month on a single tank of gas, unheard of right in Texas. So, but just walk right across the sidewalk into the building. And this picture shows the perspective of the school wing. Church building is in the background there, but it's a 3-story building. The classrooms are in the basement, offices are on the top floor, and the library and other facilities are on the second floor. But don't let that photograph fool you. Yes, during the winters there are a lot of little snowstorms that come through. Not as many as we thought, but nevertheless some good challenges just to us who grew up in Texas to live in that climate in that area. So a part of our work when we're at Bear Valley involves teaching classes, doing a lot of counseling and working with students. Carla especially, her role involves a number of those things in helping the student wives as well as the women that come and enroll in the program full-time. So we have a full-time program for student ladies who come and want to participate, but then also there's a student wives program. So we try to involve ourselves in their lives as much as possible while we're there. Here is the graduating class just before COVID hit. And then this is the graduating class during COVID. It's really sad. They couldn't even have a typical graduation ceremony according to the guidelines of the state of Colorado. So they had to have a drive-through graduation, and there was no group picture taken. And so all of their photographs then are here. But this then is the newest class that just this past May graduated. And let me tell you about a few of the students associated with some of those graduating classes so that you'll know and appreciate the work that's being done, what you've helped to support and be a part of. Here are a few students from a couple of years ago that we're very excited about. One of them his name is Evan Totocini, and right now her name escapes me, Crystal. And Evan grew up on a reservation, a Native American reservation, and was converted as a late teen, and then went to college, and he wanted to go back so desperately to the reservation there in Arizona where he grew up, and so he's now there working. Not only are the Totocinis there, but then also the Arbuckles are in Hawaii. They're the ones on your right, Arbuckles, and a really fascinating story about that. So Drew Andrews, his name, was working in Hawaii. He and his family lived there. He's actually from the mainland area originally, but moved there to work for Best Buy, and then got involved in the church there in Honolulu, wrong state, in Honolulu, and they said, Drew, you need to go to school. And so he came to school at Bear Valley for 2 years. He and his family were there. And then they moved back to Hawaii. And while he's there trying to find a place to work, he drives by a building that had a sign out in front of it. It said the Church of Christ at Wahiawa. Well, he didn't know anything about the church in Wahiawa when he was there because sadly, they had taken down the sign. And there was a preacher there that just kept moving the church further and further away from the truth and decided that basically they wanted to become a community church. And so they took down the sign, Church of Christ. Well, as so often is the case with some of those situations, he basically dwindled away the church to nothing. There were a few ladies that were original members of that congregation that were in the area, and somehow they were able to secure the building. They went inside and found the sign out back and said, we're going to put the sign back out and we're going to start meeting. We don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to put the sign back out in the yard, and we just want to be the Church of Christ. Drew just happened to drive by one day, saw the sign, started investigating a little bit more about it, and they said, we need someone to come and help spread the gospel and to preach here in this community. Now, the little interesting connection about that is that when my dad was stationed in the military at Schofield Barracks back in the early 1950s, he and 2 or 3 other people were meeting on base at the Schofield Barracks. A lot of the there were several Christians in the area. They were traveling over to the Honolulu congregation, but on Sunday nights they would meet in Wahiawa. They started that congregation. And Dad, over the years, was keeping up with it, but so saddened about the turn of events and things that had happened. And so he was delighted to hear that one of our graduates was going over there and going to be working with that congregation. Now, he's had a lot of challenges, there's no doubt, and uphill battle in many ways. But just before COVID hit, they invited us to come and to do a marriage seminar and a gospel meeting there. And so it was a real blessing to be able to go and to work with that congregation, and then also to walk in the footsteps of my dad, who had been there, of course, many years earlier. But that's where the Arbuckles are. Let me move quickly here to a couple other families that exciting to hear about. And I'm telling you these things again because we need to know that in an area in the United States maybe where we're struggling, right? Here we are in the world, in the United States, and maybe just there isn't as much interest in spiritual things. We're becoming more and more secular, it seems like, all the time. There are places in the world where that's not the case, where a lot of good work is being done, where people want to hear. And this message of authentic, pure Christianity is being embraced and is being practiced in cultures all over the world. Here is a couple, Edmund Sarpong and Christiana, who are recent graduates of Bear Valley. And Edmund, 70 years old, came to school at Bear Valley. And I tell you what, a spring in his step and such enthusiasm, and went through our 2-year program, and now they're back at Ghana. They actually have dual citizenship in Ghana and in the United States. Long story, interesting history with regard to his life. He actually was our first graduate of the World Video Bible School online program, and but felt like he needed further education, so he came to Bear Valley. And so he and his wife have just returned to Ghana, and they're working to establish a school of preaching there in Ghana. So what a delightful couple, wonderful couple. Here is Leo, and it's L-E-O-U on the screen, but I think it's actually L-I-U, but he just said, tell everybody just to say Leo is what he would say, Louis or something like that. And Ting, and they are from Wuhan, China. They did not bring the virus over here. I just want to let you know that. They, sadly, though, were in the United States when all that was going on, and bless their hearts, their family was there, so they were already in their second or in their first year at Bear Valley when all of that hit in Wuhan. And boy, it just tore them up, thinking about not being able to reach their family members all the time and what was going on there. And we were all still sort of, trying to figure things out at that time. And, we were sending masks through them over there, let alone we should have held on to those masks, right? We didn't know we were going to need them, but sending masks over there at that time, and so many things. But they hung in there, and Leo's a fine individual and educated man. He had a little trouble with his English. His wife was much better at it. In fact, she was a translator in China. But they're back there now. And there's a small congregation in Wuhan, China. And they're back there working and involved in that work. And so what a blessing to see them and to hear about them. And then just down the road here, a couple so thankful for and excited about the most recent graduate, Colton and Katie Balance. And they're involved in internship, a 2-year internship at the University Congregation in San Marcos, and just love them. He is such a talented fellow. He's actually from Coons, Texas originally, and she's from Oklahoma. But so they've moved back to Texas and are going to be doing a variety of things down there with perhaps, and maybe the hopes, we'll see, of staying on longer. We just don't know what the Lord wills for them. But great couple. Let me just end with this again by reminding you that we're trying to do a great number of things. And the Lord has blessed us with opportunities in each of these areas. And if you want to know more about what we're trying to do and the work that you have helped support over the years, then you can go to our website, BiblePassages.net. And there is Bible Land Passages, BibleLandPassages.org for all the videos, but more about our work and some other videos and the marriage passages and articles that we've written, particularly Jordan, our son, who works with the Katy congregation and, as you know, directs the AIM Youth Camp. He has a number of his articles on there, and those are some other things that we're working to improve on. But take a look at that site. And also, if you don't receive our email newsletter, I know that the church here does, as well as a hard copy of our monthly newsletter. But if you'd like to receive an email copy, just go online to BiblePassages.net, and there's a place that you can register for that, and we'll put you on that email list. Finally, as we conclude, we just, again, want to say thank you so much for your support, for your prayers, and your many words of encouragement. And God has really worked through you to do a great number of things. And so we thank you for the work that He's doing through you in helping us, because you're a part of what you've been able to see here today. Look forward to our worship hour in just a few moments.